Hi everyone, welcome to Jawaras. In this video, we will look at qualifier annotation. In the previous video, we have seen how to use auto-add annotation to inject the dependencies. But let's say we have multiple beans of the same type and we want to inject one of those beans into another service or another bean based on some conditions or some qualification. So that we can accomplish using qualifiers. So let's see how to do that. So to use qualifier, we need one annotation, qualifier annotation, and we have one tag which is called qualifier. So let's say we have a class called A and that needs an instance of class B, and we created bean of class A, but we have multiple beans of class B, and we need one of these beans in class A. If we just use auto-add annotation and we don't use any qualifier annotation, then we will get exception of type no unique bean defined exception or something like that, because Spring IOC container can only deal with one bean but it founds two bean, and there is no way to resolve the ambiguity that which bean should be injected. So in order to make that decision, we can use qualifier annotation. So inside class A, along with auto add annotation, we can use qualifier annotation on the field for B, and we can pass main as value. So it the container or the context will look for a bean of type B with qualifier main. So you can see for the first bean definition has a tag qualifier and its value is main. So this bean will be used. If there are multiple beans which satisfy this qualifier criteria, then there will be exception. Here I have already created a project. In this project, in the pom.xml file, I have configured the Maven to use Java version 17, and I have specified Spring version 6.0.11 here, and I have added a Spring context dependency because that's the dependency which contains a Spring IOC container. So you can search on internet uh, for a Spring context Maven dependency and you can get the code how to add the dependency in the POM or in the Gradle file. After that, I have created main class inside main package, which and that main class has public static void main method, which will be the starting point of our application. Then I have two classes, book service class inside services package and book repository class inside repositories package. So book service class has an instance of book repository and we have auto wide annotation for that. So it will be automatically wired into the book service, and we override the toString method in order to print the book repository. And then we have beans.xml file inside resources directory, and here we have defined beans of type book service and book repository. And in the main method, first I have created an application context from beans.xml file using class path xml application context, and I am accessing book service from the context and I am printing it here. Let's run it. So if we run it, then we can see the book repository inside book service is null, but that should not be null because we have used auto void annotation here, and a bean of type book repository is already present here. But I already mentioned in the previous video that in order for auto void annotation to work, we need to have one tag here which is context colon annotation config. So we can use that. So as soon as you add this tag, the IDE will automatically import this context here. If it doesn't, then you will get an error here. In that case, you need to manually add xmlns context here and then this tag here. And since this tag was empty, so we can rewrite it using this syntax. Now if we run it again, now we can see book repository is not empty, so it has some value. That means auto-wired annotation is working fine. Now let's say we have multiple instances or multiple beans of book repository. So repositories.book repository, and if we run it again, as expected, we will get this error because unsatisfied dependency exception, because there are multiple beans which satisfy this criteria auto-wired. So there is no criteria. That means all the beans of type book repository will satisfy this criteria, and there are two beans. So Spring IOC container doesn't guess which one to use. It just throws an error. So let's say we have a main book repository which we want to use here. So we can use qualifier and main. Now the ID gives this error as well, and it's this is giving error because it doesn't find any bean with qualifier main. So if you add qualifier here, so bean and qualifier value will be main, then the error should go on. So you can see now it is green, and if we run it again, okay, we can see we are getting the book repository here. So that's how we use qualifier annotation. Now there is more to qualifier. In the qualifier there are two things. First is qualifier annotation and the second is qualifier tag. So qualifier annotation is used to get or search for dependencies which satisfies this qualification, and qualifier tag is used in order to define a bean with the given qualification. So here in the qualifier tag is telling that this bean defines this qualification where value is main. And qualifier annotation can be used on methods or constructor arguments or any method arguments or field. So wherever we can use auto-wide annotation, there we can use this qualifier annotation. But in this video, we will only use it on fields. There is a concept of custom qualifiers, so we can define our own qualifiers as well. So let's say we have different book repositories based on different programming languages. So what we can do is we can create a custom qualifier with the name language. So as you can see here, we are creating a annotation called language, and you know that to create annotation we use public @interface and then the name of the annotation. So a name of annotation is language, and in order to make this qualifier, we need to annotate this annotation with qualifier annotation, and then in the target annotation we can specify where we can use this annotation. So we have defined two things here, fields and method parameters, but uh, you can use methods as well in the target. So so that's how we use custom qualifier. So that's how we define custom qualifier, and then how to use it. Mm, if you see it at the below, we have public class book service, and here we are auto wiring book repository, and we have given it name Java repository, and we just use that annotation which we just created, which is language, and we pass the string in the value. So we just passed Java here, and whenever we want to define a bean with that qualification, in the qualification tag we use type, and the type will be the fully qualified name of this annotation. So let's say this language annotation is inside qualifiers package, so the type will be qualifiers dot language, and the value will be whatever value we want to give. So let's see that in action. So we have book service here. So let's create a new Java class. Let's create this qualifier inside qualifications or qualifiers package, qualifiers dot language, and let's put some annotations here. So first annotation is target, and it will be a list element type dot field and parameter, element type dot field and parameter, and then retention retention policy dot runtime. And we need to have qualifier annotation here, and let's say string value. Okay, public at the rate interface. Okay, so it will be public at the rate because it's an annotation. So instead of class we use at the rate interface. So our custom qualifier is ready, so we can use it. So let's go to bean, and here instead of this qualifier I will use qualifier type will be the fully qualified name, which is qualifiers dot language, and let's say value will be Java. So this book repository is for Java language, and let's say this is for uh, Python language. So we can use qualifier type will be qualifiers dot language, and value will be Python. And inside book repository, now we can see we are getting error because there is no bean with the qualifier main. So we can remove it. We can say language and Java, and let's call it Java repository. Let's see Java repository here as well. Okay, so yeah, if we run it again, it works perfectly fine because now the Spring IC container will search for a bean of type book repository where the qualification type is language and the value of that qualifier is Java, and it will find this bean because this has type book repository and qualifier type is qualifier.language and value of that qualifier is Java. So that's how we use custom qualifiers. Now we can have custom qualifier without value as well. Now let's say we have a book repository for books of algorithms. So for that we want and that book is not for any particular language, like that book has concepts of algorithms only. It is not for Java or Python or anything like that. So we can create another qualifier for that. So let's create a new Java class here. So it will be in annotation and its name will be algorithm, and let's annotate it first with target. So you can say field and parameter and retention runtime. And in order to make this qualifier we need to use qualifier annotation here. And yeah, and now we don't need to put anything here, so just this will be fine. So what we can do is inside book service we can create another field, private book repository. Let's say algorithm book repository, and auto wired and qualifier, or okay, or not qualifier, algorithm. And you can see the error cannot find being qualified with at the rate algorithm. But if you run it, you can see this error because there is no bean with the qualifier algorithm. So we need to create bean. So let's create or let's modify this qualifier, and qualifier type will be, let's say, qualifiers dot algorithm, and we don't need to specify any value. And if we run it, it working fine. So let's print the value of this algorithm book repository as well. And this will be Java repository. And if we run it again, okay, we go to different book repositories based on different qualifiers. So that's how it works. Now we can have custom qualifiers with multiple attributes as well. So this is how we define it. So we can just define multiple attributes. So earlier we only defined one attribute, which is a string. The type is a string, and the name is value. Name or key is value. And after that we defined one qualifier with no attribute. Then we can define qualifier with multiple attributes. So just the type of the attribute and the key or name of the attribute. So a type is string, name is language, the type is level. Yeah, so the type can be any enum as well. So level is enum, and the key or name is level with a small l. So we define a level enum called level. So level can have multiple values, beginner, intermediate, or expert. So here what we are trying to accomplish is, so the book repositories has two dimensions. Like first is what is the language, let's say Java, Python, JavaScript, or C++, like that. And then there are levels like beginner, intermediate, or expert level books. So for that, so there can be books related to Java for beginners, Java for intermediate, Java for expert, or Python for expert, Python for beginners, and like that. And after that, whenever we request for any bean, what we can do is we can use the qualifier name, and then we can define all the attributes just like we use any annotation. So we define language, and language should be string because we have defined the type of language to be string. The type of level should be a level. So level can be level dot beginner or level dot expert. And how to register a bean with that qualifier? So inside a bean we have qualifier tag, then we specify the type, and now we don't use value for qualifier tag. Inside qualifier tag we have another tag which is attribute. So since we need to define multiple attributes for the qualifier, so each attribute has, so the attribute, so each attribute tag has two attributes. One is key, another is value. So key is the variable name, and value is the, what is the value. So here there are two attributes, level and language. And so there is a typo in the second line. So attribute, this should be key equal to level and value equal to beginner. It is not value equal to level. It should be key equal to level and value equal to beginner. And same goes for the second. So here we have defined two book repositories, one for Java language for beginners, and second book repository for Python language for experts. So let's see how to do that. So I will create another qualifier, new Java class, and it will be book qualifier, and it's an annotation. So as always, let's say target field parameter, then retention, runtime. And in order for this to work as qualifier, we need to have qualifier annotation here. Now we can specify anything we want. So let's say string language, and we need one enum. So inside qualifiers only, let's create a new Java class enum, and its type will be level, and it has three values: beginner, intermediate, expert. And let's go to book qualifier again and say level, level. So that's how we create a qualifier. Now let's use that those qualifier to search for beans which satisfies the given qualification. So what I will do is I will remove all of these fields. Now let's create a private book repository, Java beginner repository, private book repository, Python, let's say Python expert repository. And let's create two string method and use auto add annotation here, and use book qualifier. So it has we need to specify language. So language will be Java, and level will be, let's say, beginner. And for the Python expert repository, let's use auto add annotation here, and book qualifier language is Python, and level is expert. And now we are getting here red underline because cannot find bean qualified with book qualifier, because we have not registered any bean with these qualifications. We will do that next. So let's go to beans.xml and let's remove these, and let's create a bean with class repositories.book repository, and here I will use a qualifier with type qualifier.book qualifier. Now I will have attribute key, I will use language, and value will be Java. Then second attribute, the key I will use level, and value will be beginner. So beginner. And if I go to book service here, so the cannot find being qualified with the book qualifier. Okay, first let's copy this, and book qualifier language will be Python, and the value of level will be expert. Okay, let's refresh. Okay, now we can see we have Java beginner repository, this one, and Python beginner repository is this one, and both are different objects. So that's how we use custom qualifiers. So in this video we have learned how to use qualifier annotation. So if your use case is simple, you can use qualifier annotation, and if your use case is like more specific, then you can use your custom qualifiers, and you can use multiple dimensions as well if you want. So it all works fine. So thank you everyone for watching the video. We will meet in the next video. Until then, keep learning. Bye.